Let's start with you, Howard. What is the importance of corporate responsibility?
I think it's important to understand in the modern world, large corporates operate within a societal context, and the expectation of our clients and prospective clients is that we're part of that community, and that as we do business in that community, we'll also give back to that community. I think it would be cynical to think that a large corporate could operate in an environment without having some give for the take that it takes out of that environment.
Is it only powerful big brands that should be giving back?
No, I don't think not so at all. I think and brands really sit in people's heads, and it's not just about a name or a logo. It's about what people think of the brand, and really that goes to a company's actions. And the expectation is that a company, a large corporate or a small corporate or a one-man band even, to do business will do the right thing, that they will be responsible within the markets that they're going to be operating within.
And Omar, what's your opinion on this?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is, I know of a company that essentially set itself up as a company that was set to do good. Google, we do no evil. And this particular issue is an issue I was fortunate enough to be part of a discussion that was at one of the business schools. And Google was brought up as an example of a company that's doing things well, doing things right, has the right founding philosophy. And yet they were going into China and prepared to censor themselves and essentially go against the very grain of what they say we do good. So one of the things that worries me about this whole commitment that we have to corporate social responsibility is whether that goes any deeper than just superficial, just the skin. Because there are many encounters that companies have where it's an issue of money, making money or being profitable, and making shareholders happy who are looking for those dividends or whatever it is, and doing the right thing. And often that's when the rubber hits the road, is when you say, we have corporate, all of us, including my company, have a corporate social responsibility division. They're that great face of the company that says, this is what we do, these are how many schools we built, this is what we're doing for kids. Is that consistent when a real decision has to be made in the heat of battle against a competitor? Do we act consistently as good corporate citizens, or do we at that point say, this is much more important that I destroy that company, and if I act in this way and it's contrary to my values, I'll still do it, because at the end of the day, what's the bottom line, and my company's future is more important. So the thing about that is, for me, it's a constant tension between the two, between the profit motive, which is what businesses exist for, and we've seen that happen all around the world in this particular recession. There's the profit motive that took people over the edge and destroyed companies and families and lives. And yet, if you had to look at some of those brands outwardly, what they would have been saying about what they do for society and for people and for their own employees would have been very different from the way they actually acted. It's a big issue.
Howard, what are some of the initiatives that you're involved in at Liberty?
Well, Liberty for over 40 years has been involved in supporting education. That's our primary reinvestment into our markets, because we believe that will be the lever which results in growth and prosperity in markets. I think it's important to pick up on your point with regards to Google. I think the reason that most of your viewers probably haven't seen or heard a lot about what Liberty does in education is because, to your very point, I think the reason it's called CSI and it's not called the Marketing Division's sponsorship program is because these things that they shouldn't be overtly promotional. You know what Liberty does. You know, you'll recognise it as we say. Shouldn't be. So but you'll recognise our stuff. The Matric Matters. There's the channel on DSTV that we support, etc., supporting maths and science literacy. But you won't find a big ad from Liberty saying, "Ta-da! This is what we do," because it's about being a good corporate citizen, not promoting. And I think that's the difficulty that you described with Google. That if you make such a thing of it, that Google always does good, we do no evil, and you make that sort of became almost a sign-off line for their brand, then you should expect a little cynicism when you don't live up to that. So I think that's the careful balance as an organization we have to have between, we can let people know that we're doing these initiatives, but it's not really about a hard promotional marketing objective.
How do you single out a single focus? So you say education.
Sure.
How do you as a company decide what are we focusing on?
Well, I think you have to pick where you can make an impact. I think the issue is that the expectations of a large corporate are unending. People think we have unlimited resources, but I think to your point, we are a commercial organization with shareholders who have an expectation of a return. So you have to balance what you can do. I think some organizations fall into the trap of trying to do a plethora of things where they make no impact.
Right.
So the Liberty Group has been quite focused in saying they're going to try and make an impact on something that they think they can make a difference in.
Omar, over to you. How do we take these companies to task? What could be done?
I think if you look at what's happened since the global recession, in the way that there has been a backlash against global capital because of the way it behaves, because capital is driven by what seems to be crass materialism alone, there is enough of a groundswell from people who interact with these businesses and support these brands,
Customers.
just in terms of perception, that hopefully that will start to spark companies being meaningfully committed to these things. In other words, they're not just doing it as window dressing, which is my big contention.
Sure.
I worry about companies doing this as window dressing. Well, the green thing is big right now, so let's show how we're green because we have to, not because we fundamentally believe in it. I think that's that's at the heart of how good corporate citizens should behave. They should be motivated by this because it is the right thing to do, and they understand even that there will be decision making that might affect profitability, but yet they, in doing a particular action that's for the betterment of humankind,
Right.
it may affect profitability. How do you deal with that? If you're really committed, you should be able to go ahead and say, I'm doing the right thing, and ultimately the benefit may not be, it's not a short-term benefit. I think that's the other big thing.
It's not a short-term
The
benefit.
big thing is about this global, again, the global recession happened
That's
because of
right.
short-termism.
That's it.
My profit, my bonus,
Yes.
my shareholders, my share price, right now,
yeah.
tomorrow, next quarter. And really what businesses should be thinking, I mean, this how all human beings should be thinking, is less about what happens now and tomorrow and more about, in my actions, am I preserving and creating a legacy that's sustainable for generations to come.
Right.
That's what the earth is about. That's what businesses are about. It's about succeeding generations of a brand building and having resonance with communities. And you want them to support you not just for tomorrow with your
That's
profits.
it.
Do things now that the children of
That's exactly.
of these
Build that
customers-
brand equity
Exactly.
now.
Yeah.
So Howard, how has the feedback been from your customers or clients?
Again, as I said, so it's not something that we shout about. I think to pick up on your point, it's about a long-term commitment, and it's about making sure that, I've got this phrase around the office, it's not lipstick on the bulldog. So you can't take an ugly bulldog, slap a bit of lipstick on it, and pretend that you've got a different animal. Okay, so it's about doing the right thing in everything that you do. It's not just about saying, well, we'll be a mean capitalistic profit motive above all else organization, but we'll give a little bit to charity, then we'll shout about it, and that's the lipstick, and everyone will think we're a much prettier bulldog. It's not about that. It's about making sure that this is a long-term commitment. As I said, Liberty's been committed in education for over 40 years, so it's not and it's not something to shout about. It's about doing consistently, I think, to your point, through thick and thin, is giving back into the communities in which you operate. And I think that's only fair to the communities that you operate within.
And lastly, projects for 2010.
Well, we've just come off the back of our AIDS initiative end of last year, and I think those initiatives will continue, and as we indicated, education through this year. So there's no specific highlight project that we're going to highlight. It's this continuing investment into education, and those will continue through 2010.